I do not believe there is anything more valuable than personal growth. And now I look at people who are super successful in a well-rounded manner, and it's very clear that the reason they are that successful, quote unquote, is because they have focused on personal development and personal growth over just business development or learning certain things. There's something about personal growth that helps you learn more about everything, but it also feels like nothing at the same time.
In my coaching, when we're focused on personal development and getting better and growing their businesses, my clients' businesses, I was on with a client earlier. She's a photographer. Shout out to you. She listens every day. And I said, 90% of everything you're doing is great. You're great. But the 10% that we have to focus on today is what is not great. And sometimes I feel a little negative, but I know that that's what's going to get her to the next level.
Next Level Nation, today for episode number 2055, this is the answer to everything. I was on a podcast today. You were on this podcast as well, and it was a wonderful podcast. And at one point, we were talking about growth, and we were talking about personal development. That's pretty much every podcast I'm on. We talk about that because that's what we talk about. And at one point, I said, I think the reason personal development is so important and so valuable is because I am under way more pressure than I've ever been, but I'm also way more capable of handling the pressure. And the guy said, hold on, man. I need you to say it again. And I said, I can't say it again, brother. It's gone. I said it.
I was there for this?
No. You've been on the show in the past.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He said I did better. I was like, of course.
Yeah, he did not say that.
He did. He wrote me a handwritten note right after with chocolates and everything.
Signed it?
Yep. Signed date by
better than Alan Lazarus.
Way better.
Nice.
He said it wasn't even leagues above Child's Play. Alan's Child's Play compared. No, it was a really good conversation though. And then I was thinking after, and it like if you start personal development. So what is the definition of personal development? Trying to improve oneself. Trying to develop oneself. Trying to evolve oneself. Almost nothing is going to happen in the beginning in anything. But when you do it long enough, you're just much stronger across more pillars. So if you're out there and you just focus on money, I'm willing to bet you will probably be better with money than I will ever be if that's like your one thing. Like you go all in, I'm going to focus on money. But there's no way you could be nearly as well-rounded as I am. There's 100%. No way. And across the pillars, I will have better results. Will I have better results in one? Maybe not. Like I'm never going to be in the best shape ever. It'll never happen. I'm never going to be the wealthiest person. That's not going to happen. I'm never going to be the, I don't know.
Tallest.
I'm never going to be the tall. That has nothing to do with personal development. I can develop myself. I've developed the shit out of myself, but I'm not going up in that direction, unfortunately. Just as an example, you're most likely not going to be the best at one thing because you're not a specialist. Personal development is quite literally you saying, I'm going to be the best at being me. And with the best version of me is going to bring the best version of the results that I'm capable of. But what I said to Alan in the beginning before we did this episode was, it's going to help you get better at everything, but you're not going to feel like you're getting better at anything until you realize you've gotten better at everything. And it's weird how it's set up that way.
Well, that goes back to the mile markers we were talking about. You're doing a marathon and you have a little mile marker, a certain speech or a certain podcast or a certain moment or a certain aha moment. Two things came up for me way back. This probably wasn't that long ago. Maybe 6 months ago.
2 days ago.
6 months ago in book club, we had a brainstorming session around if you could imagine we all have a child and we want this child to flourish in the world to the best of their ability. What is the one subject in school that you would want them to learn? If they could only learn one course, they could only take one course, what one would you pick? And everyone had different ones. One of them said dance. I said statistics, obviously. And other people said other things. I can't remember in this moment what the other ones were.
Okay.
That's a good question to ask, though, because with personal development, what are the fundamentals that you should focus on? Because you were saying you're not a specialist. If you're top 100 in health, wealth, and love, you're 1 in a million. 1 over 100 times 1 over 100 times 1 over 100 is 1 in a million. What if you could be a specialist who also works on the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual part of their nature? And if you're on YouTube, I'm using my hands a lot, so Kevin's laughing. But seriously, you weren't laughing? I thought you were giggling.
No.
I thought you were about to. Real quick. Your one thing is podcasting. Kevin's a podcaster. That's his identity. He wants to be the best that he can be at podcasting. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's your one thing. However, you also want to be a good husband. You also want to be physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually developed. It'd be nice if I could talk today. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I'm not enunciating well. And by the way, I did look up personal development. Personal development is the ongoing process of improving your skills, knowledge, habits, mindset, and self-awareness to reach your full potential and enhance the quality of your life. It involves setting goals, acquiring new competencies, reflecting on behavior and beliefs, and making conscious efforts to grow in areas such as emotional intelligence, physical health, communication and relationships, productivity and time management, career and financial growth, self-confidence and purpose, aka all the shit we didn't learn about in school.
It's wild.
Man.
It's a great definition.
ChatGPT did it right.
It's a great definition. What subject would it, if you could only take one subject?
Mm-hmm. One subject. Statistics.
And philosophy.
Nice.
Philosophy.
I want to share something with you.
Sure.
I was in Barnes & Noble last week. And Emilia and I were waiting. I got a new phone. I traded in my iPhone 13 for the 16 Pro Max. Pumped. Nice camera. And I was waiting for it to transfer. It took forever. So we were in Barnes & Noble. Okay. I was reading The 8th Habit. So there's a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It's a very, very, very good book. There's something called The 8th Habit. And I stumbled across that book, and I was just biding time. All right. He talks about the 5 levels of consciousness. This is Next Level University. Real quick, I just want to give this to anyone out there watching or listening. He says that back in the day, way, 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 way back, our brains were hunters and gatherers. That's a certain level of consciousness. It's survival. No one who's a hunter-gatherer is concerned about building an iPhone. You need to concern yourself with survival, food, water, shelter, right?
Yeah. Get till tomorrow.
Exactly. That's all it is get to tomorrow. And I know a lot of people feel that way too. All right. Then next was the agricultural revolution. This is when you could plan. It's like, oh, we have food for 6 months. What a concept. Yay. We can think long-term. A little bit more long-term. Then it was industrial. Not only can we feed ourselves, clothe ourselves, have shelter, and have food stores year-round, freezers, all that stuff, we're going to build some shit too. We're going to build some cars. We're going to industrialize. Whoa, okay, interesting. Fossil fuels. Okay, power plants, electricity. Whoa. These are the 2 that are new. And I mean really fucking new. I'm not kidding. Like within the last 100 years new. I always think people have a lot of anxiety and stuff. And I know why. It's the world is too new for our old hardware. If our brain updated as much as our iPhone did, we'd be golden. That's why NLU, I think, is so valuable, because if you listen every single day, we were talking to a team member yesterday on a team huddle, and she's been listening every day. She said, I've never once listened to an episode where I didn't increase my awareness. It's like, we need to get you on video saying that, right?
Get that in writing, please.
Yeah. The next is an information / knowledge worker. This means you have a computer. This is Google, information age, pre-AI. This is colleges, books, encyclopedias, information. Back in the day, there were people who weren't educated. This is the education age, when you're educated enough. And this is sort of Great Britain, and they built certain schools. Like Great Britain is the main place in the world that Oxford, and they started sort of the whole college thing for the most part. And again, don't quote me on this.
Shout out to Great Britain.
Yeah. And then the next one is wisdom. This is hyper consciousness. This is understanding all the others. So Kev and I, if we want to be the best versions of ourselves, if any listeners or people watching want to be the best version of yourself, and I promise I'll bring this back to personal development, we have to be able to hunt and gather. We have to be able to farm. We have to be able to learn how to be in an assembly line and punch a time card. We have to learn how to be a knowledge worker who can work on our computers and that kind of thing. And then if you're wise, you realize that you get to transcend all of those others. But it takes years and years and years to do that. No one at 7 transcends punching a time card.
What does it mean? What's the definition of transcend?
The Einstein quote, he says, you cannot solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. So I often use this as a metaphor. Emilia's 30 years old, I'm 36. Me at 30 wouldn't have been able to be with her at 36 because my consciousness wasn't capable of it. I wasn't personally developed well enough. It would have been annoying for her to be with me at 30 if she was 30. Her now with me at 30, she would be annoyed. And she'd have to either level me up or I'd have to do a lot of extra work. Or she'd have to settle. And the reason why is because her consciousness is so much more than mine. I remember when I first met her, it was a sharing of consciousness. Her awareness is high, my awareness is high. We would just learn so much from each other. You and I do that on this podcast all the time, behind the scenes all the time. And that's what I don't think is taught to anybody, is consciousness is the unsung hero of personal development. It's not just skills and like getting in shape. It's who you become as a being. And when you are wise and you reach wisdom, you mentioned philosophy. That was the subject of choice. Philosophers are in the wisdom column. Now, here's the problem. Some of them forget how to hunt and gather. Some of them don't take care of their body. They aren't nourishing themselves, right? Yeah. So you can't, if you want to get to level 5, which is wisdom in this framework in the book, you can't forget about level 1. You still have to be strong. Because if you get in a fight, you better be able to defend yourself, right?
Dukin. I'm gonna write a book on I don't know, like anything that's ever been numbered, like the 15. What is it? 15 invaluable leadership, whatever. I'm gonna write the 16th one. I'm just gonna have a line of books that's just one.
The book is called The 8th Habit.
yeah. I'm just gonna be the extra one. I'm just gonna have a line of books that's the extra one. What do you think about that?
There's the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. There's the 15 invaluable laws of growth. There's the 22 immutable laws of marketing. Yeah, this is all
weird
just
number.
The 4-hour work week.
I'm going to do the 3-hour work week. I'm going to outsell that tomorrow.
Yeah, good luck with that, man.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Do 4 hours of work in 3 hours. There you go. You're welcome. You're very welcome. You're super welcome. I think that's a really good way to explain it, because when your consciousness increases, your capabilities increase.
Yeah.
And you're just in more control. You can control yourself to a deeper level. You can influence yourself. Well, I would say you can control yourself, because I don't think it's negative to say that. You can influence people, places, things, and ideas in a different way. Mm-hmm. You should feel like you're in more control of your outcomes because you're... You know what I used to think of all the time? It's weird as shit, I know. I used to think of myself as a human being as a little figurine in my head, controlling everything I do. I swear to God.
You ever seen Men in Black?
No.
Okay, never mind.
And I was thinking this before Men in Black. So they took this idea out of my consciousness. How dare they? And I did not get credited at all. But essentially, the better the controller is at that, the more successful they're going to be. I mean, like if I can control myself in a better way.
Yep.
But it's so hard to sell personal development because the benefits are invisible, if not detrimental in the beginning.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's why it's so hard. But I was on the podcast and he said at the end, what do you want your lasting memory with the audience to be? Nice and question. I said, it was a great question. Great podcast. It was a great podcast. I said, I know it's not sexy. And I know at times it kind of sucks. And I know that in the beginning, it almost feels like you're going backwards. But if you can focus on a little bit of personal development every day, eventually you'll get to the place where you realize how much you've changed. But it will never be based on what you did yesterday. It will always be based on from where you started. And I just don't know how else to get it to land other than it's just a commitment. Just like anything else. It's a commitment. If you want to have, what's the difference between a relationship and a truly deeply committed relationship? Those are two very different things. What's the difference between an employee and a deeply purpose-driven, committed employee? Those are two very different things. Those are the people write news articles about employees like that.
Do you think one of the reasons we don't face this is because I used to use the house metaphor. It's so I'm 36 years old, and if we know the difference between a mansion and a shack, why is a mansion worth more? It's rarer and it's harder to build. It takes more time and effort. I just feel the same way about human beings. But we have this weird thing where we want to believe everyone's the same. We want to believe everyone's equal. Intrinsically and spiritually, we are. But when it comes to your own personal development, no one is equal.
Yeah.
No one. I have mentors that are just more valuable in business. I have certain people that are in better shape. They're more valuable on the basketball court. Or I think that it gets really weird and emotional. And I realized, I was on a therapy call earlier, and I realized that apparently I have this hyper-rational brain that is very unique, from her words, not mine. But I don't think of people from an emotional lens. I try to think of things very objectively. Like, objectively speaking, you are way more valuable than you used to be.
Yes.
It's not close. It's not even close. But I didn't want to be mean and like say old Kevin wasn't of value. It's just not as valuable. It's like you turned your shack into you're born as a shack, and then you renovate the shack and you build a little cabin, and then you learn how to build a bigger house, and then you renovate it makes sense. But when it comes to people, we get all wonky about it.
Yeah.
Like, you're a mansion now. You weren't a mansion in your 20s. No one is.
Well, I think a piece of it is directly connected to the level of problems that you can solve. I think that's like such a big piece of it, is like, what if we all work at the same company, but I can solve problems at a higher level than Alan, I'm most likely to get paid more than Alan.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there's less people that can do what I can do.
Exactly. And what you can do can make way more money.
And it also took me 20 years to get to the place where I could do what I can do. And if you just came in, you can't learn 20 years of stuff in 2 years. It doesn't work that way.
It's just like if you buy a house, a multi-million-dollar mansion costs more. Kevin is worth more now than he used to be. And I the last piece of this I'll share, the age thing. Like, I really think that what I remember when I was 16, I was so mistreated. And I think now in hindsight, I think I was treated disrespectfully to a point where I probably should have said something or done something other than just take it. I remember I burnt the biscuits, and I tell the story where the waiter was just throwing them at me, like in the middle. It was pretty humiliating. But I remember thinking, like, I'm a peon because I'm supposed to be a peon for now. And I remember thinking, like, oh, I'm going to own this place one day. Yeah, like, I'm going to come and just buy this place and fucking fire you. I couldn't wait.
Yeah.
And I will get to a place where I can do that. I obviously won't, and he won't be working there by the time that's the case. But I remember thinking, like, this is just the hard yards. I'm young. I'm 16. So you'll see one day, fucker.
It's hard without belief, though.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And even the awareness of, like, this is how it's supposed to be. Not necessarily somebody throwing biscuits at you. Like, you're throwing biscuits, we're going to throw hands, son.
Yeah.
Even though
Kev would have actually thrown hands.
No, probably not, because he was a grown man.
He was big. He was a big boy.
That's pass. I would have done nothing.
He was huge, yeah.
I would have said, more biscuits, please, probably. That's what I would have said.
That's that self-worth right there.
Yeah. Well, this is why it's so hard, because it's very hard to be hyper-logical and hyper-rational when it comes to people.
100%.
And I think that's one of the reasons personal development. We had a moment last night where we were on the team call, And Alan said, and again, I'm saying this as an example, sit with me with it. He said, Kev, you're just not that good of a leader yet because you're 35. Like, you haven't led people that long. Like, there aren't that many people that are good leaders in their 30s. It makes sense. And I had that moment of like, anybody outside the team would probably be offended for me.
Really?
Probably. I mean, I think if that's something you're not used to hearing. But I remember when I would have been offended.
Name me a leader in their 30s that you think is good.
I don't follow leaders as much as you do, so. And I have
There aren't any.
I have very little faith in most. Like, at this point, I just have very little faith in most leaders in general, honestly.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother thing. I've seen behind the curtain too many times. But the reason that isn't negative to me is because I've done enough work to say, like, yeah, no, that's true. That's true. I think that's what personal development does. It allows you to take reality and sit with it. Sit with the reality of whatever the truth is. Because when you work on yourself, I think internally you become stronger. I think externally you become stronger as well. The external world does not affect you to the same degree necessarily. All right, so feedback from Alan is not the same as it used to be.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Right. Not only is it not detrimental, that's actually constructive.
Yeah.
So now you will, because I said that, and your reaction to it. And that was the part I was missing in the past. Like, I thought saying things like that was constructive. Well, and I realize now it depends on the person, right? So, and again, I always knew that to some extent, but not to the extent I do now. But that now you can learn how to be, the first step to becoming a better leader is accepting that you aren't yet.
Yeah.
Why would you work on leadership if you think you're a good leader?
I think true self-improvement, personal development. Again, I always get them mixed up. Makes you way more mature as a person. That's what I was trying to say. You and I have met a lot of people who are very successful in business, and behind the scenes, they are just kids.
Yeah.
They're not that well personally developed. Their business development is high, or their fitness development is high, or their financial acumen is high. Their personal development set point is not that high. We've talked about that many times. Personal development set point is like the thermometer. Like, where are you in terms of what's your temperature? Right now it's a 70. Cool. You spend time around people who are 70 and above because you're trying to level that up. Anytime it drops below a certain point, you kick it on and say, I've been kind of letting myself go lately. I got to get back in the flow of thing. Fitness, same thing, right? My thermometer, my set point, I went beyond it. I went lower than I'm comfortable, so I kicked it on and I got in shape.
Yeah, your standards. You went below the set point is not only a standard, but it's also a know-how.
Yeah.
I had a mentor last piece.
Yes,
who
I do have to hop here in a second.
His business development set point was really, really high. He was a multi-millionaire, but his set point in personal development was low, so he ended up divorced because he wasn't emotionally available and he didn't understand vulnerability, courage, humility, all the stuff that I'm learning at CCP. One of my favorite things about this podcast, Conscious Couples, I just learn distinctions, deeper understanding and distinctions. Last piece. A deeper understanding is, okay, I connected a bunch of dots. Interesting. Now I get it. I get it now. I just read a book. I bought 4 books last night. They weren't that expensive. Not that you care. Making Numbers Count. The whole book is talking about the Guinness Book of World Records and how but how statistically speaking, most people don't understand the difference between a million and a billion. And that blew my mind. And just real quick, the million is if you won $1 million on Thanksgiving and you spent $50,000 every day, you'd basically run out of money by Christmas. If you did $1 billion, you won $1 billion, it'd take 55 years to run out of money. And what the premise of this book is no one really understands the difference until you tie it to experiential learning. For me, that was a distinction of that's why I'm a terrible speaker. Because to me, I know all the numbers and I think in numbers. That's my first modality of thinking. And this book is basically saying that that's not the case for almost anybody. And according to the book, not me, please don't villainize me. So now I know why no one gets what I'm talking about until years later. Because now I have so many people I coached 6, 5, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And you guys are like, oh. And I'm like, I fucking said that 8 years ago, but it didn't land experientially because I'm thinking all in numbers. And so deeper understanding, distinctions, personal development, inside, outside, the results in your life will be predicated on your own personal development set point. And when you invest in yourself, I have courses I spent $3,000 on. Yep. They made me a better leader or one of them is called Insane Productivity. It made me so much more productive. I mean, you have to, just like you invest in a house, you have to invest in yourself. You have to. What is education? What is going to college? That's an investment in your brain. That's an investment in your learning. That's an investment in yourself. We think of high school as free because public schools are free, not everywhere, but for us it was. Public schools were free and better be with our education. I'm kidding. But ultimately, that's not actually free. Like taxpayers pay for that. And so when you go to school, you're investing in your education. And I now realize that that's not necessarily a common mindset. Most of us are consumers and not investors. And personal development is an investment. Short term, it's actually terrible.
Yeah. Long
term, eventually it's, this is really paying off. Back when I was getting biscuits thrown at me, I was a miserable human being. I mean, I just thought, okay, one day my future will be a lot better than this, and I'm going to come back and fire this dude. But I just kept investing. And eventually, I'm excited to have other people, really invest in themselves too, because it does work. It really does work.
It does. It just takes time.
It takes a long time.
It takes commitment, and you have to say, look, I'm in this for the long haul. This is not a get anything quick thing. It's not. It's like you're planting seeds. You're just planting seeds every day. Little seed. Then you water the seed, and then eventually it sprouts, and then it grows, But that's all you're just planting seeds daily. That's it. I think that's probably the best way to think about it. All right, I got a call. I got to hop on with a client. So we're going to pop on out of here. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Keep it next level.